So I haven't got the description part in, but my idea for the project was I wanted to teach the water cycle and like an interactive game form instead of water, which I haven't really added some of that into the summary that I was going to add some of that in there. But,
for those of us who don't know, can you just describe it?
Basically, it was just going to start like they're going to be able to pick their character, which I have a mock-up screen for that, where they get to pick it in the top one, and then they would be able to go through this game like the water cycle, where they drop them and then they get to the ground and then be evaporated and go back up into the cloud again. And then when they're finished with this, their character that they created would go onto a larger screen and like continue through the water cycle, so they can see their character like continue through the cycle again and again. If they wanted to create another one, they could.
Cool. Oh, go ahead, keep going.
Then the second image I have is for one of the mock-up screens where they would be able to click like left and right to avoid the buildings and have a water droplet land on the ground. And then on the bottom one, I have it showing of when, it's telling them about the information. They get to click the button, figuring out the sign, and then you can't really see it, but there's like a smaller image like right there. And then it'll tell them something about it, and then they can click next, and then go to like the next scenario and situation happening as well.
So one question, how is a sense of community with this game?
Well, after they finish the game on like a tablet or something, then their character would be over to go to a larger screen and then continue through the water cycle, so they can keep watching their little character fall down from the sky and land on the ground, and then get back and you can keep going up and join the crowd again, and then keep going through that cycle.
What about, like, if memory serves, one of the things it was like when there are a bunch of people using it together.
Yeah, like it would be separate they would have like 7, 8 tablets. They would do their little game, make their character, and then after they finished their game, then their little character would go on a larger screen for everyone else to see, and then everybody else's little character would go up there as
well. I think the graphics are awesome and really fun and well thought out. I think one of the interesting parts about runoff and water and getting kids, like there could be a whole conservation thought. Well, not you know how maybe conservation, but and I'm thinking about your cityscape here, the more that we pave our landscape, there are less possibility for erosion. So then you're going to have more runoff. So in communities, they have to have so much, you have to maintain the ratio between how much paved space you have versus how much green space. Because for every cubic, like if you look at in our class that we teach on the grid, off the grid, we looked at like the Galleria property, for example, and all of that paved area, how much runoff that yields. That's why like when it rains, so you have these really big rains, all of a sudden it's torrential because in an urban environment, there's so much runoff because there's not areas for it to absorb.
Yeah.
Well, I'm noticing some of the newer construction are creating rain gardens.
Yes.
For that purpose.
Exactly. So, and then if you look at different types of surfaces, there are like a rainforest, for example, it can absorb the most amount of rain per minute, whereas concrete is, and then there's everything in between, right? So I'm just thinking here, with these raindrops that are coming down, and there could be a game objective here where you are trying to manage somehow flooding from happening, or I don't know, and then or maybe the water conservation thing too.
Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking something along those lines, but it's kind of like a smaller game. I was trying to keep it kind of simple and dumbed down. Because like I literally I had like 24, 25 sketches. Like, okay, I'm gonna do this, and then this would happen,
Right.
and that would happen.
Right. I think that the faces are really cute, but I
do
don't
worry
know.
a little bit about looking like Mr. Potato Head. So you don't want to like infringe on anybody's copyright. So you might have to be a little concerned.
Well, they would also be able to choose their own different eyes.
Okay.
That's just like the show symbol what one could look like. That's why I kind of you can't see it, but like on the side where you'd be able to change your character, like the hats and the eyes. I kind of made them different so they would look like
Sure.
not so similar.
Like you would tap, like you tap first the hat and then the left or right areas to
Scroll
cycle
through.
through.
And the colors, well, the water.
Well, maybe you can use a lot of this. Okay, so like at the first screen, I could kind of see building your character, and the character's like, part of the water cycle. Like, when I fall in a forest like this, it's lovely because I'm absorbed by the water.
Yeah.
And he's like, but in the city, it's a different story. Get me to an appropriate spot where, so the kid is kind of navigating through this urban environment and looking for good places for water to land.
Like it would be different. Like first you would start out in the easy mode with the forest, and then each time you go through it gets slightly more difficult to find the right spot.
That
You
maybe
could eventually make it to a river
yeah,
or
but
the ocean.
yeah, well, there could be different levels, right? But remember, this is a museum environment, so it's not going to be like, I'm leveling up. I've been here for 3.5 hours today. It's going to be more like a passing by sort of experience.
Yeah.
But
5, 10 minutes.
I think that, this actually could kind of work with your concept here, where, in this cityscape, and I think all of those yellow windows and stuff are a little bit confusing. If you could mock something up where you could see the difference between landing on a paved area, maybe the view has to be more of a overhead view where you're kind of moving around this place, and it's like, the rain garden, get 10 points, like get to the ocean, and you're like, moving your guy. There could be a fun educational part there. You can still keep your characters, you're still moving the rain around. And if it's a touch screen, you don't need that start button. It's kind of like, you could just you could do a mock-up of like a kid with their hand, like, trying to move this raindrop into an appropriate spot where it's absorbed into the ground so that it can, recycle.
Like with the level thing, like maybe not have it be like once you finish one, it then goes to the next. But have it be like different difficulty settings. Like, okay, do you want to do
Sure.
easy mode, or do you want to do expert mode? Or
Sure. Like, but I think this concept could kind of work. I think that if we do something more like that, that middle screen might have to be, like the idea. Well, how much time? Yeah, how much time do I have till I have to land? And it's like, this looks like a pretty good option here to land in this rain garden, but maybe if I explore around a little bit.
Kind of like a parachute if you're actually dropping.
Yes, and maybe some time tickers, so like, I gotta find a place to land in 30 seconds or 10 seconds. And I'm interested in, maybe when you approach the game this time, I'm a raindrop and I'm landing in the city of St. Louis, or I'm landing in da-da-da, and it could be a different experience every time. Help me find a place to land where I'll be most likely able to, absorb and blah, 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 blah. So this, you're moving this drop all over the place, and you're looking for, I would think that, I would imagine that it would have more of like a map sort of a look, where there's target areas where it's like, ooh, that looks pretty good, but should I go back to that, or should I? That was promising. I could have gotten 10 points, or should I? And then you're like, okay, try again, and then
and keep in mind that you can land anywhere and still get some points, and then your little drop will go to wherever a sewer system will be,
right,
or wherever gravity took it.
Right, exactly.
And that way, there's no losers.
There's no losers. So I think
when you're talking about first graders, that's important.
I think they need to toughen up. First
oh,
grade.
come on!
They, I think this is a great start, Alex.
There is some truth to that.
But when you go back to your opening screens, talk about what the learning objective is. Maybe put in like some of these facts about absorption rates and runoff problems. There is, oh, Allie, I think you have your microphone on. Sorry. Gosh, what is that? Oh, there's so many. There's this old Fugees rap song. It's got too many MCs on the microphone.
I know the beat. That's all I got in my head right now.
I was about to start rapping. I'm like, don't do that. Nobody's going to know what you're talking about.
Oh, that would have been amazing.
I think you're saying too many MCs on the microphone. But try to, there's a book that I have in my office that might be helpful to you. It's called On the Grid. And the book, there's a chapter, What Water Wants to Do. And you could pull stuff out of that for like explaining what the issues are with water and runoff. And this book, if you're around today, come by my office because I have it in my office, and you can just quote that for your background and justifying what you're trying to do. It's kind of cool. He talks about water, power, and he tracks it all in one city and explains, it follows sewage and where it goes, and then the power system. But the whole chapter on water is about what a water drop wants to do and why these different levels of absorption and space make a difference. Okay, Toodaloo, we did get in touch with me about your senior overview. Thursday, I
started the website.
Okay, well, we can talk about it later. These guys need to present this project right now.
All right.
So if you want to come talk to me on Thursday, you have a lot of work to do for that project.
Yeah, I've gotten a decent start on the website.
Okay.
Because I already learned how to do WordPress thanks to SAGBAC. Because I had him for my one class and we had to make a WordPress site. So.
Okay, great. All right, well, I'll talk to you later. I just want to give these guys a chance to present.
All right.
Bye, Brian. Allie, I assume you have stuff to present.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
It's not done yet, but so the summary, I was going to do the virtual map of the 50 states that goes in the Magic House. We place in a blank wall and do a touch screen. Every time a child taps on a state, it shows a pop-up window and a fun fact and its capital. We have also an option to take a selfie in the video section. Show the slideshow at the bottom of the screen. Past people's selfies and video. Every 30-45 minutes, the pictures change out so that everyone can come in. One has up to 100. Then it starts over. Then there's a print option available if you wanted to print up your selfie when you're done. And then a problem statement. The educational objective is to teach children from 6 to 12 newly to learn 50 states, its capital, and fun fact about each state. It's relevant to the museum and it's important for the target audience to learn because there isn't a lot of history taught in museums, especially about 50 states. And because they're so they can help them in the future. And the target audience is the 6 to 12. And then there's like, so this is like on the screen. Really dive in. But basically, I don't know if there are no lines or not yet. I don't know about that. They might just be able to go up and like just touch it. And then at the bottom, it says the capital, and then what symbol each state has, and then all that. And that just tells you like extra facts, like the population. I don't know, I studied another method. I just think it would be like a colorful map, so it looks more inviting rather than just like black and white. So that's all I'm so far.
I have a lot of thoughts. See, the first thing is under objective. Your opinion on why it's an important objective is relevant to those who are going to find it as actual research. So you might want to look up and see. You could spin it like this. It's like, in the United States, children by the time they're seniors know almost nothing about geography.
Yeah.
So spin it that way rather than you think it's a good idea. Because your opinion is just your opinion. But if you can throw an actual statistic in there, that literally has more value than. And then I was thinking, as far as the screen itself, the bottom states that are reachable by the little ones will be touched all the time. So maybe there's a way to sweep in, and then the whole thing is right there in front of you. And then if you want to go one of the northern states, you'd be able to both hands, or even one hand, make it slightly bigger so you can reach your top state.
Yeah. Like just like a big screen and like a little table.
Little kids. They're going to want to touch that big screen, I think.
Yeah.
That'll be exciting, I think.
Just not just like step screens. I mean,
No, because they can trip and fall, and
I mean, like I'm talking like those like librarian ones where they walk up, they have like sides on them, they kind of move over, slide over, and whatnot. But here's the thing, and then still, like I have a 4-year-old son, and he'll go up to anything. Mommy, I want to hit that one. Okay, you lift him up and you let him hit that one.
I think the wand idea is kind of cool too. I mean, the pointer and that's like people are used to doing a Wii, kind of like a Wii control, and that might be a solution to the problem.
Yeah.
Did you have more thoughts, you guys?
I would change the font on the top. Font is just make sure it's not like all capitals. Like on the, I don't know, I wasn't talking about this. I was talking about your objection and everything. Yeah, it's just kind of hard something to read it all.
I agree with what everybody is saying here. I think your idea is really good, and that's probably the hardest part of this project.
It's simple.
It's good. The way that you're presenting it is you got a lot of work to do because, first of all, it's not. I mean, a proposal is usually 8.5 by 11. People, you don't believe me. People want to print these out. They want to hand them out at a meeting and discuss it. So if you do an odd setup, we need some branding. This should all be in InDesign. All your text should be in InDesign. And then the problem statement. I agree with what Pamela is saying. There's probably you could Google it in probably 2 seconds. Let's imagine this is a proposal for the Magic House. Missouri education requirements require that students understand all 50 states by the grade of da-da-da-da. Sadly, only 10% are meeting this standard with level. I mean, I'm pulling this out of my ass. I have no idea. But, I'm sure you can find this to back. That's compelling. You want those people who are the decision makers with the money in their pocket, they would be like, oh, So that should go into the writing. We should never see I in a proposal for anything because it's not about you. You are solving the problem for the museum. The museum, they all the time, they have people come to them and they say, hey, I want to sponsor an exhibit. I'm such and such Bank of North Dakota. We want to give an exhibit to the museum and we're interested in teaching kids about this. So they're trying to match up the funds that they have with some cool ideas that kids are going to like. And your job is just, as the creative and the creative technologist, is to be like, look, this is a cool solution, and here's why. So leave the I out of it as much as possible and write in a really compelling way. This idea of the selfie, at first, you might need to think about this in terms of 2 modes. And I think that we're kind of over-perseverating on this, like how people are going to touch them, because I think the wand would work and be fine. I mean, yeah, it's going to be a lot harder to click Rhode Island than it's going to be to click Alaska. That's just, it is what it is, right? So, let's say that it's operating in 2 different modes. And I agree with the color. However, in this particular map, it's arbitrarily colored. And we just accept this because we're used to seeing maps like this. But Edward Tufte would have a shit fit about this because it's like, what does purple mean? And why is Oklahoma and Missouri purple, but yellow? Does that have a different meaning? And when you're trying to visually communicate, to just throw colors around like this willy-nilly, you're losing an opportunity to communicate. So it could be, it could be, it could mean a lot. You have the potential to have it mean a lot more. When a kid is selecting it, if you had more of a neutral like background, but then the state just lit up like crazy when you touched it or you put your thing over it, all of a sudden you're using color to communicate something, and it's a lot more valuable than just like rainbow barf color. You know what I mean? So I've got a lot of really bad language in this video recording today, don't I? And this is like on YouTube right now. So you might even think about like a kid comes up to it and they can use the wand, and maybe a couple people are using the wand and they light up, and whoever clicks on one first, then it starts talking, and then there could be like, how do you integrate the whole selfie mode? At first, I was thinking, maybe on the bottom, you could have these scrolling, like a little slideshow of people in different places. And I thought, well, right. Well, what if I was thinking these selfies, are they are places that, like, let's say I was at the Alamo in Texas and I'm with my mom. My mom's like, ooh, let's send the selfie to the exhibit because you've been to Texas. Then you could run into some trouble because, parents or high school kids, they could send porn to the exhibit, right? So what if I select the state and the state lit up and it's like famous places in Texas, and did you know the capital of Texas is this, and famous places, have you been there? Take a selfie there. It doesn't matter if you've been there or not. So the exhibit takes a picture of the Alamo and it green screens you, and it makes that picture.
That was.
Oh, okay. Right.
It's just like if you've been there, whatever, but it'll show you.
It was like
famous background.
It's like you have your
yourself.
fake selfie that you've been to the Alamo.
Right.
Even though you've never been.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that at this point, I feel like before you get too caught up in trying, because I know that you personally are still struggling a little bit with Illustrator and everything, I would do a user scenario, draw it out a little bit. Like, kid comes up to the exhibit, picks up one. What does the screen look like when they're holding it like this and they're over Texas? What does the screen look like at that moment? And maybe you need to Photoshop a picture of some kid standing there with a Wii remote and then put yours, like, mock it up kind of thing. And again, I know you're trying to get up to speed with the graphics, so we'll help you get there. But I think the more important thing is to have it on paper, be like, look, I want a screen that looks like this to show this. And so I know what you're trying to mock up, so we can make these mock-ups happen. But I would say that all of this detail at the bottom, no one's going to really read all of that. And where are the selfies going to come into that image? Like scrolling selfies, and like you travel somewhere, so I think this needs to better represent what it is you're trying to do. And I know it's challenging with the graphics right now. So even if you have it on paper at this point, no problem. We'll get the mock-ups to work. So just keep pushing it, because your idea is really good. It's just about presenting it that needs work, and the visualization. And a little bit of backup research. Okay. Adama, Pamela, do you guys have anything? I don't. Okay. Adama, what about you?
I do.
Okay.